Good morning, guys. It's Ian from OSBFX. It's the 9th of December 2021. It's 8:35 in the morning in the UK. I want to go onto the single currency charts. I want to highlight where the bias is on there. And I also want to talk about completed patterns. Now, I've had a particularly bad week this week. I was selling against the trend yesterday, Aussie yen and Aussie Swiss. I probably over leveraged as well, and I've seen a drawdown on my account. That's as usual has taken me back to my notebooks, of which I have many, and I've tried to decipher the ciphers. So I'm trying to work out where I've gone wrong when in previous analysis and previous trade ideas they've gone pretty well. And I've come to the conclusion, all right, it might be a short-term conclusion, that my levels do work well, but what I've tried to do lately is I've tried to sort of forward predict the completed patterns. So I'm looking at AB legs, BC legs, and I'm trying to work out where they're going, and I'm actually trying to play these inside legs where I believe the real power in the analysis is actually when these legs or these cipher patterns complete, and they actually complete at our bespoke support or resistance level, and that brings sterling into focus this morning, along with quite a few other currencies. So let's get to the charts anyway. Let's stop with the waffle and talk and show what we've been talking about. So here, this is yen. Okay, and this dotted black line is a medium-term resistance. In fact, it's long-term. So the lines, purple is short-term resistance or support, blue is medium-term, black is long-term. And you can see here I made a cipher pattern at a resistance zone, and we saw quite a decent move to the downside in the Japanese yen, of which I wasn't on because it happened very late on Friday. And then I didn't get on it on the Sunday night, Monday morning open. So missed this trade. But what I did do, I bought down here. So I bought some yen here on the back of Aussie yen, and I actually saw it move to the downside, and yen, and Aussie moved aggressively higher, and that threw my trade out. So what's happening? Where am I going? Well, if I look back at all of the decent trades or trends that we've had over the short and medium term, it's been on completed patterns. It's not been on trying to forward forecast a pattern. And if we go here, this is the dollar index. And I can see here that we've seen a stalling. So we've seen a stalling at our bespoke support. Now, normally I'd look to buy this leg to the upside. But what I'm now thinking is I should be waiting for this to complete, because I've got my bespoke support levels, 3 of them in fact, down here. So even though the scope for the dollar to move to the downside, I should really be looking at buying the dollar when it completes, because this BC leg, it might be tiny, it might just be to here, or it could be all the way up to here, but this is actually a completed pattern down here, and there's nothing to say that this pattern doesn't complete here at a butterfly formation instead of getting all the way to the crab, but the crab looks prime. So struggling with this a little bit this morning. So that brings me on to, let's go through all the single currencies first. So that gives a downward bias in the US dollar, but after a potential move to the upside. Euro dollar, again, we've got a potential completed pattern here, but at the moment we're sort of in no man's land. Sterling, which is the one I want to concentrate, so I'm going to come back on sterling. Swiss francs. So Swiss francs, yes, we've seen a move up from the support, and again going back to that Aussie Swiss, that's why I chose the Aussie Swiss trade yesterday. But this might just be a small leg in the BC before we come down to complete a bat formation. Now the bat formation has bespoke support with it, so quite happy to buy on the completion of that pattern, but at the moment we haven't completed that pattern. So I've got to stand aside. CAD. CAD could well be moving lower in CD leg, but I don't complete the pattern until down here. So again, I should really be leaving it alone. I don't have, when I say leaving it alone, it's not, it shouldn't be the dominating factor of the analysis. It gives me a bias. So if I'm looking at, say, CAD sterling, or sterling CAD, I should say, and I want to buy sterling and sell CAD, when I look at this chart, yes, the bias is to sell CAD, but what I'm really doing is I'm trading sterling, and CAD is a sideline, if you like. So we have the dominating single currency, and then there's the sideline single currency, Aussie, and this dotted line here was my resistance, and as you can see, we've pushed higher. So what I'm looking at now, as far as this chart's concerned, let's just make it a bit bigger, is a completion up here. So what I want to see is I want to see it to get to the first resistance, then pull back and then move higher. If we get a swing high here, then I'm not completing a pattern, and that becomes an issue. New Zealand dollar again is really sort of in no man's land, but I can sell rallies, but only as a second currency. And then Japanese yen, which we talked about, we've moved higher, and again, really, this hasn't formed a pattern, and in fact, we're starting to see it move a little bit lower now. And what would form a pattern is a move from this level, but again, I'd have to look at shorter time frames. I've got support here at 61.8%, so you've got scope for this to play out. Bosh, 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 bosh. But who's to say this is not that leg already completed? So I'm trying to trade these inside legs, and they're not working, or they're not extending to the levels that are making it very profitable. So that brings me back onto sterling, just keeping an eye on the time because we've got a 15-minute limit for the YouTube videos. So here we've got sterling. Okay, so we've moved lower, and I know what the first thing you're going to say is, where's the dotted black lines? Let me get to that. So we've got a completed pattern here, or we will get a completed pattern. So that says to me that I should be buying into sterling. But how come I don't have a dotted purple, black, or blue line? Well, I do have to have a purple, a dotted line to be able to take my trade, because that's my bespoke support and resistance levels. But it doesn't mean that I can't have that in sterling. So if I go to sterling, and these are all the sterling crosses, okay, and I go to sterling dollar, is there anything here that tells me that I should be buying sterling against the US dollar? Well, yes, we've got quite a decent falling wedge, okay, so we've got support to the downside as long as this wedge doesn't break. So that's telling me that I've got scope for buying sterling. Sterling Aussie, and you can note that I've put a dotted red line here. The red line are my sync lines, okay? So this is telling me that yes, I can buy sterling at lower levels, because this will hopefully make that. But I don't want to be trading this one. That's what I've got to say, because I've just said about the BC legs, this might just move to here. It might move to here, but it's not a completed pattern. But it's giving me reasons. It's giving me a bias to buy sterling, and that's all I'm looking for at the moment, just a bias to buy sterling across the board. Okay, this is quite aggressive, and this is sterling against Swiss francs. So again, buying the dip at 88.6%, which is a typical BC leg, and we've got the potential to move all the way up here. So again, I don't want to be using this pattern, because I'm trading an inside leg. I'm not trading a completed leg. But when I said I really like this, the reason I really like this is because my focus is on euro sterling, and sterling Swiss moves in the opposite direction of euro sterling. So if this goes aggressively higher, I've got a scope for euro sterling to come aggressively lower. Sterling yen, And again, we've got a pattern down here. Could mean stronger yen this morning. Sterling New Zealand. I've got a pattern here. Notice the dotted black lines are moving up from that dotted black line at the moment, which is bespoke support, but the cipher pattern's not till here. And then sterling CAD, really looking for a pattern here. This is an 8-hour chart, so that highlights quite lower levels in sterling against the Canadian dollar. That's why I've broken it down into a shorter time frame. Wait and see whether or not we get any pattern formations there, if and when sterling hits the support. So that brings me on to euro sterling. And euro sterling, if I go to the 8-hour chart, okay, I've got a perfect cipher pattern here. It's 86.54, and I've got my bespoke resistance levels here. Now they're both medium-term resistance level. One's a monthly and one's a weekly, so it does mean that I can spike through them to reach the target as long as I close below. So that basically, that zone there, move that back up, that zone is my sell zone, which is 86.29 to 86.54. What is the target level? Well, if I go to here, I've got an 88.6% pullback level, so that means that we could breach and make new lows as far as the daily chart is concerned. So just to highlight what I'm talking about today, is that I'm no longer trying to decipher the cipher, if you like, and would prefer to trade the completed patterns. And this is the power of a completed pattern. I didn't have the other side this morning, or I didn't have the bespoke resistance level, but you can see here, I was looking at this last night. This is euro yen, and there's two patterns here. There was a butterfly formation here, 129.10 to 129.17. We made a 129.10, and then there was another pattern up here, which was my preferred pattern because it's got my bespoke resistance. But you can see that the completed cipher has been quite aggressive to the downside, and if we can catch topping formations, then I believe, especially with decent risk reward management and like what I've been performing this week, there's ample scope for a decent run, should we say. So just to reiterate what I've been talking about, it's I'm still using my bespoke support and resistance levels after taking note of my notes. It really is about completed patterns, not trying to forecast into the patterns. If we get a completed pattern on a single currency chart, but it's not at bespoke support or resistance, we can still reflect that back into currency crosses as long as we have some bespoke resistance or support on the currency crosses. Okay, guys, good luck today. I'll be back again with some more insights. Many thanks.